I remember the morning I woke up and felt something strange in my chest, like a soft pull that would not go away. I made coffee and stared at the empty chair across from me where my daughter used to sit and talk about her dreams. She always wanted to be a doctor and travel the world. She was my reason to smile after her father left us years ago. I gave her everything I could. I worked double shifts at the diner, saved every dollar to help her through college. I thought we were close. I thought she would always tell me everything. But that morning, when I opened my phone and saw the pictures, my heart stopped. She was standing there in a white dress, holding the hand of a man I had never seen before. Her smile was wide and bright, but my eyes filled with tears. The post said, "Just married," and my hands began to shake. I stared at the screen, not believing it was real. My daughter, my baby girl, was married, and I was not there. I felt the air leave my lungs like the world had turned cold around me. I whispered her name again and again, but there was no answer. No message from her, nothing. I tried calling her again and again, but the line kept going to voicemail. I left message after message, my voice breaking each time, until all I could do was whisper, "Please call me back, sweetheart." I sat in the kitchen staring at the phone, waiting for a sound that never came. The clock ticked, the coffee went cold, the sun moved across the window, but she never called. I drove to her apartment that night, the one I helped her rent when she got her first job. The lights were off, the curtains drawn. The key I still had did not fit the lock anymore. I stood there under the porch light, my heart pounding and my hands trembling. Someone had changed the locks. I left a note on the door that said, "I saw the pictures. I love you. Please talk to me." And then I drove home in the dark with rain hitting the windshield so hard I could barely see the road. I thought about the man she had married. He looked older than her, maybe 10 years older, maybe more. I tried to remember if she had ever mentioned him, but she never had. I felt like I was living in someone else's story, like my daughter had built an entire new life without me. I sat on the couch holding her old baby blanket, breathing in the faint scent of her childhood room. I remembered her laughter, the way she used to run into my arms after school, the way she cried when she was scared, and how I promised her I would always be there for her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made me sit up and check my phone, hoping it was her, but it was never her. I told myself maybe she was scared, maybe there was a reason, maybe she would call in the morning. But the morning came, and all that came with it was silence. The next day, I drove to her workplace, hoping maybe someone there would know something. The lady at the front desk smiled politely and said, "Your daughter left last week, ma'am. She said she was moving out of state with her husband." My stomach twisted when I heard the word husband. It sounded unreal, like a dream I had not been invited to. I asked if she knew where they went, but she shook her head and said she did not. I drove aimlessly through the streets, not knowing where I was going. I ended up at the park where I used to take her when she was little. The swings were empty, the trees were bare. It was early autumn, and the air carried that smell of leaves and rain. I sat on the bench and tried to remember the last time we had really talked. Not just quick calls or text messages, but a real talk, like mother and daughter. I realized it had been months, maybe longer. I took out my phone and opened the pictures again, zooming in on her face. She looked happy, truly happy, and for a moment, that should have comforted me, but instead it hurt more. I wanted to know who he was and why she had hidden him from me. I searched his name online, found nothing. Then I searched her new last name and found a small wedding announcement on a local website. It said, "Private ceremony, attended by close friends only. No mention of family, no mention of me." I stared at the screen until tears blurred the words, and then I shut the laptop and whispered, "Why didn't you tell me, baby? What did I do wrong?" That night, I dreamed of her as a child, running through the backyard with her hair flying in the wind. She turned and waved and shouted, "I love you, Mom!" And I woke up with tears on my face and the sound of silence echoing in the house that once felt full of life. A week passed before I heard anything. I had almost given up when, one evening as the sun was setting, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a picture of my daughter, sitting in a small living room, smiling shyly at the camera. Beside her was the same man from the wedding photos, and under it were the words, "Mom, I'm sorry. Please don't be angry." I froze, reading the words again and again. My heart pounding, I typed back, "Where are you, sweetheart? Please just tell me you're safe." A few minutes later, another message came. "I'm safe, Mom. I love you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just needed time to explain." I stared at the screen, wanting to scream, wanting to cry, wanting to hold her again. I asked her who he was and why she hadn't told me. She said his name was Daniel and that they met at the hospital where she worked. He was a patient at first, recovering from an accident, and they fell in love quietly, secretly, because his family didn't approve. She said they had to keep it hidden until he recovered fully, and by the time he did, they couldn't wait any longer. They wanted to be together no matter what. I sat there, reading every word, my chest tight with a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. She had found love, but in finding it, she had hidden herself from me. I asked her to come home. She said she couldn't, not yet, but she promised she would visit soon. I waited, days, then weeks. Every night I sat by the window watching the road for her car. I told myself over and over she would come when she was ready, but every morning came with the same empty driveway and the same cold coffee untouched on the table. I kept her room just the way she left it, her photos still on the wall, her books still on the shelf, as if she would walk in at any minute and say, "Mom, I'm home." It was almost winter when the knock came. I was sitting by the window again, watching snow fall on the front yard. The world looked white and quiet and lonely. When I heard it, 3 soft knocks. I opened the door and there she was, standing there in a long coat, her cheeks pink from the cold, her eyes full of tears. I could not speak for a moment. My voice caught in my throat. She whispered, "Hi, Mom," and I just pulled her into my arms and held her tight like I had been holding my breath for months. She cried against my shoulder, saying, "I'm sorry," over and over, and I kept saying, "It's okay. You're here now. That's all that matters." She told me she and Daniel had moved to a small town in Oregon, that he was kind to her, that they were happy, but she missed me every single day. She said she was afraid I would be disappointed, afraid I would not understand. I told her I did not care who he was or where she lived. All I cared about was her being safe, being loved, being alive. She smiled through her tears and said, "I should have known you would say that." We sat by the fire that night, drinking tea and talking about everything. She told me about her new job, about their tiny apartment with leaky pipes and noisy neighbors. She told me Daniel wanted to meet me soon. I told her I would love that. When she finally went to bed, I stood by her old room, watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, like she did when she was a child. And for the first time in months, my heart felt warm again. I realized love does not vanish when distance grows. It waits quietly, through the pain, through the silence, until the day it is needed again. The next morning when I woke up, she was already in the kitchen, making breakfast, humming softly like she used to, and I thought to myself, maybe I did find out too late, but at least I found her again, and that was enough.